have just as much fun talking about books that I love and books that I hate. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today we're talking about my least favorite books from 2022. So this is part 2. I filmed part 1 like back in February, I think, and I kind of decided just to break this up and sprinkle it through the year a little bit, or at least, yeah, we're almost like halfway through the year. Let's not talk about that. I'm really not ready for half the year to already be over. How do I decide what my least favorite books are? Well, basically anything with a 3-star or lower means that I didn't like it. 3-star books mean I didn't really like it, but it's probably like a me issue. Maybe the pace didn't work for me, maybe the tropes in the book didn't work for me, things like that. But I could easily see this book being appealing to somebody else. It just wasn't really for me. 2 stars means I absolutely didn't like it and I probably will not recommend it to anybody. And then a 1-star book means I regret picking it up. And like I disliked it so much I may never read the author again. So there are not any 1-star books on the lineup today. There's not any 1-star books in the lineup today. I think there's like 2 2-stars, and then a lot of them are 3 stars. Like I didn't really have any like terrible books from last year. Now 2021, there were some bad ones in 2021. But 2022, I didn't have any like truly awful ones. They were just, some of them weren't for me, and then some of them I just didn't really like. But yeah, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. Just so you know, I didn't do like 100% of my due diligence. I did not collect all of the stars for these titles today. I don't know. It's been a weird everything. This month's been like a little bit weird. Like, so yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea of what these are. But since these are all books that I read in 2022, like I'll make sure and tag the videos that they're in so you can like go back and see my star rating if you want to. These are all going to be 3 and below. Like I said, I don't remember any of these being 1 stars. But yeah, so sorry about the like inaccuracy or whatever for me like overlooking that, but yeah, life. Okay, so the first book we're going to talk about is Opening Up by Dane. So this is definitely a 3-star because like I read it and remember thinking I could totally see this being appealing to a lot of other people. It just wasn't super appealing to me. For some reason I remember these characters' names, and if you guys know anything about me, I can't remember people's names for the life of me, but PJ and Asa are the main characters in this book. It's split POV. And we have PJ, who is I want to say like a body artist, but like she does cars. So she paints. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But that's what she does. But her parents own this like well-off tire company. It's like a tire empire, basically. But she doesn't want to be part of that, and it kind of turns her into the black sheep of her family. Asa is a guy that owns a body shop with a couple of his friends, and they hire PJ on as like a freelancer to come in and like work for them with their clients. So that's how PJ and Asa meet. This is very much like biker mechanic romance, workplace romance. It is technically like a spicy novel. Yeah, it just didn't work for me. Like, there just became a point where I got so bored with PJ and Asa. Like, it just felt like neither one of them could do no wrong. And it was just it just made for a flat plot for me. I just didn't find PJ or Asa to be very interesting characters. Like, they just felt really one-dimensional. I mean, PJ's the black sheep of her family or whatever, but she's still like extremely well off. Like, she's not struggling. She's had like all of these opportunities, just like extremely privileged to like also be sad about her not inheriting her father's company or something like that. And Lauren Dane wrote Asa to be like a bad boy, like rides a motorcycle, like he's in a secret fight club kind of thing. But I don't think she really like got into it enough for me because I didn't get the vibe that she was going for. Like Asa did not feel like a bad boy to me. And the spice in this was really low. I was expecting this to be a lot better, and it just wasn't. This very mild spice, I would say. A lot of the scenes just felt really repetitive. There wasn't a lot of imagination in the bedroom, if you ask me. So, yeah, this was definitely a 3-star because I could see this really working for other people. It just didn't really work for me. I think if you're new to spicy books or smut or anything like that, and you like these kinds of tropes and stuff, this is a very easy read. It wasn't complex, it wasn't too much. Like I said, the spice was very mild, so I think if you're new to that genre, then this would probably really work for you. It is part of a series. I don't really see myself like finishing it though, just because the first one didn't really wow me. But yeah. The next book I'm going to talk about is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. Okay, so Tiffany D. Jackson has burned me so many times because she writes these amazing novels with these great hard-hitting plot lines and issues, socioeconomic issues that I absolutely love reading about. She writes really diverse cast, really brilliantly written BIPOC characters. Like, it's just amazing the way that she writes, and I absolutely fall in love with everything. And then when we get to the book, it's like she forgets to write the ending or something. This is not the first time that Tiffany Jackson has just pulled one over on me, okay? And the same goes for this book. She really, like, I was really mad when I finished it. Like, I remember writing on her TikTok page or something about, like, is there gonna be a sequel? And she made the, like, emoji face. I was like, that. And I was like, that's a no? Like, so you're just gonna leave it the way it was? Okay, so premise of this book. Now, like I said, I think her name is Mary, our main character, gets put into a special children's prison for allegedly murdering a white baby when she was like 6 or something. Like, that's the whole plot of the story, is she's put in a children's prison for allegedly killing this baby. She maintains that she never killed it, okay? And, or I don't think she really says anything. She goes into the prison system for like her whole life. And she gets out and goes into like a program, like a rehab type program, when she's like 15, and that's where the story picks up. And we're kind of following her as she's navigating this world and like also trying to like get out of the situation, like, you know, try and live a normal life. And then somewhere in the story she gets pregnant, and then it turns into her trying to actually fight for her legal rights to freedom, because she maintains that she did not kill this baby and she has proof. Now after all these years she says, I have proof and I'm gonna tell my truth and this is what happened. So that's what the story is about, okay? Great amount of intrigue. Like I said, beautifully written characters. The character dynamics, the family dynamics that are in this book are just so raw and real and interesting. Like, I almost always categorize Tiffany Jackson's books as like thrillers. This feels like a thriller when you're reading it, okay? And then you just throw in all of this other like really important discussions. That's another thing that she really is good at writing, is important socioeconomic discussions that just continue to not happen. She's so good at writing about that stuff. This is the thing. She gets all the way to the end of the book and she stabbed me in the back. And I questioned everything and I was really upset. So, read this at your own risk. This is not the first, like I said, this is not the first time Tiffany Jackson's done this to me. So, by now I'm kind of like expected her to do this to me. Now, when I read Grown by Tiffany Jackson, I read that previously. I think it was in February. She nailed that book. That book, the twist at the end was just perfection. I loved that book. But the other couple books that I've read by her, the twist at the end left me very upset and mad and questioning everything, and that was this book. I know a lot of people like this book. I feel like it's 50-50. Either people really liked it and hated the ending, or really liked it and loved the ending. So I haven't really talked to anybody who really dislikes Tiffany Jackson, unless we're talking about endings, and I'm one of those people. The next book I'm going to talk about is Quantum Entanglement by S.R. Watson. Okay, so this was a KU like indie published book, which I try really hard to read indie novelists because I think it's so great to support people like that, and you know, hopefully one day I'm going to be an indie or self-published author, so like I like to give back to the self-published community and the indie community. So saw this TikTok about this book. And I was like, this sounds really cool. So the whole premise of the book is like people that come into their powers as adults, and then they go to this special school that's for like magical people, but it's like college. So think like Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Twilight, all grown up and in college when they all like kind of come together, and like it has just like a little bit of everything. So like they have gods and goddesses, werewolves and vampires and witches. Like it's a really cool mixture of things, and it was like all the fantasy type things that were from like my childhood were like all grown up and in a completely new setting, but the dynamic was still the same. We have this two people, can't remember their names now, but they're like a fated pair, and this was like something new and exciting that the professors at the school had never seen before, and it's kind of the beginning of their journey to harnessing their powers. This is part of a series that I will not be continuing because this book was so poorly written, and I absolutely hate saying that because I know it was a self-published book, but WTF, I don't know like how they got so far with it to publish it, because it just felt like it was not run by a beta reader, and it was not run by a proofreader either. There was so much inconsistency, the story was really underdeveloped, and there were just spelling and grammatical errors everywhere. Like, it's painful for me to read stuff like that because I know that if like I'm a freelance beta reader, I know that if they had sent me this book, all I would have done is praised the creativity, but I would have demanded there be more. And I would have been able to give them a lot of constructive feedback on how to take their story to the next level. Because let me tell you, the idea of this was so flippin' good. The idea was so good. I was so into the idea of this book, and I loved the way that they set it up, and I loved the development that was on the page, but there just wasn't enough. Like, I felt like they just took the idea and made the rough draft and published the rough draft. It was very raw, it was very unfinished, very underdeveloped, and not polished, and I was just so disappointed. I feel like I probably gave this one 2 stars because I just couldn't understand why they would publish it the way that it was. And then the other thing that was really frustrating is they published a lot of books. Like, I think this is a duo. It's S.R. Watson and somebody else. They've published a ton of books together, and their books have like thousands of reviews and really good ratings, which like I'm really happy for them that they got all those reviews and those ratings, but I just don't know how, because this book was not the best work. But yeah, the idea, excellent. The idea was aces. Execution, not so much. The next book I'm going to talk about is Malorie by Josh Malerman. Okay, so this is the sequel to Bird Box. If you have been here, my OG followers, I have talked about Bird Box extensively on this page. We've talked about Bird Box the book, Bird Box the film. We've talked about Malorie, which is the sequel to Bird Box. Like, Bird Box has been on my page for like a hot minute, alright? This was definitely a 3-star because I loved the idea. It just didn't meet the standards of the first book. So it just fell a little bit short for me. So premise of Malorie is like at the end of Bird Box. This picks up right at the end of Bird Box, but then it gives you like a little snippet, and then we jump ahead like, I want to say like 10 years. So now we're 10 years in the future, and the two kids from Bird Box are now like young adults, teens, like 15, 16, I think. And so we're seeing how like the world has continued on, how Malorie and the children have grown up, where they've been living, how they've been like surviving and like making a home for themselves and stuff like that. And somebody knocks on the door of their home, which is like a huge deal. And they find out that they're taking a census of all the people that are still alive. Malorie finds out that there is a possibility that her parents are still alive. And this like basically shatters all of Malorie's world. We talked about this a lot when I talked about Bird Box, about how soft Malorie was at the beginning of everything, and how much this kind of epidemic and this devastation and apocalypse type event has forced her to become a hardened individual, to the point where she doesn't even want to bond with the children because she's afraid that they might die. So Malorie has become this extremely hard person so that she can survive this world, and this really shakes her foundations. And she decides with the kids that they're gonna go try and see if they can find her parents. And so we're venturing out into the great world to find out what all's happening out there. And you get the dynamics of the two kids, which, you know, the boy, Tom, is like really eager to explore and see the world, and he really wants to step out of this box that Malorie has put them in for so long. And then the young girl, she's really the peacekeeper between Malorie and Tom, and she has her work cut out for her. So the reason this got the 3 stars for me, I did really like this book because if you like apocalyptic type books and things like that, you know that there's like the big original impact of the story, and then the rest of it's survival, right? I always catch myself wondering, okay, but how long is the world going to go on like this? Like, what's the world going to look like in 5-10 years of us doing this? Are we still going to be in survival mode, or are we going to start trying to like put things back together? This book does an excellent job of telling you all those things, or like filling in the gaps for you. And I really, really love that, because I feel like there's not enough follow-up on post-apocalyptic books to do that. Do you know what I mean? Survivalist type books are always like the big moment and then the immediate reaction. Whereas this book, we're getting the long-term effects and reaction of society, which I really, really like. But the pace was a little slow. There were some returning characters in this book that I didn't really think had a place. It seemed really far-fetched. Like, there were just some points in the plot where I was like, I don't really think this connects that well. Like, I feel like he just put it in there to keep us interested, and I didn't like being played like that, Mr. Malerman. Also, Bird Box, the first book, I would say was very much psychological horror and also just gore. And Malerman can write some gore, okay? There were some really nice moments in Bird Box, and so I was kind of expecting a psychological horror or just, gore writing in this book, and there were some moments where he really could have leaned into it, and he didn't. And so I was a little disappointed there, because I know that he could do better. I've seen him do better, and so I was a little like, why did you let off the gas? I really appreciate this book because I really liked getting like the where are they now story. And but yeah, I feel like Malerman kind of let me down. Like, he just didn't deliver in the way that he did in Bird Box, and that was a little disappointing for me. Okay, this is the last one for today. It's The Girlfriend by Sarah J. Naughton. Okay. This is probably the worst one on the list. Like, I feel like this almost got 1 star. This was definitely a 2-star at least. We read this for my book club, And I remember thinking the premise sounded really, really good. And once we started reading it, like, I was getting into it and it was turning out good. And then the ending of the book really made me want to puke. Like, I don't say that lightly, and not like gore writing, like, oh, it's so gross, I'm gonna throw up. Like, morally disgusted. The premise of the book, sister and brother have been like estranged or whatever for a long time. Sister gets a phone call, says, hey, your brother's in intensive care and you're his emergency contact or whatever. So she flies from America to England, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, to go see him and kind of like figure out what's going on and basically close down his estate, I guess, and like just see what she's supposed to be doing there. And so she gets there and she finds out that her brother's been in like this weird accident, and that he's got this girl at his bedside that's supposedly his girlfriend. Yeah. And so the book kind of unravels from there, and she's trying to figure out how he got himself into this situation, how the accident happened, who is responsible, if there's someone responsible, or if it was just really like something random that and tragic that happened to him. And along the way, it just becomes a really wild ride. Like I said, this book had a lot of promise, and the storyline was really great. There was a lot of really interesting stuff happening on the page, and the pace was pretty good. And then we got to like the 3/4 mark, and it really tanked. Like, there were a lot of decisions that Sarah J. Naughton made that I thought were not great. I talked about some of this on my channel before about morally gray books. This is extremely morally gray, like to the point where I would almost say it's morally black, because the line is so blurred to me. Like, I could not get on board with the ending because of how just wrong it felt. I really just couldn't get on board with the ending. If you've read this book and you know what I'm talking about, like, then you know. It made me question my moral spectrum a lot. And then the decisions that she ended up making, like, here's the thing. When you write a book a certain way, and then, you know, an agent reads that book that's written a certain way, and it gets passed on to an editor that reads that book a certain way, and then they decide to publish it through a major publishing house written the way that it is, that speaks volumes to me, versus when a self-published author just uploads something to KU, okay? This went through so many channels, so many hands, so many eyes, so many people, for them all to say, yes, this is excellent. I want this message attached to my name. I want my name on this book. I want this to be connected to me. I would not want the decisions that were made at the end of this book connected to me. I think that if you're going to read this book, you need to look at the trigger warnings for this book and ask yourself, just looking at the trigger warnings, can you deal with a book that will like bend the morality of those triggers in your brain? There's a lot of like what I would call almost like vigilante type justice in this book. Like, that's what it kind of felt like, kind of like taking fate into your own hands. And in this instance, I didn't like it because of the sensitive nature of the content. I don't want to ruin the book for you. I don't want to ruin the book for you and give you all the spoilers. Like, if enough of you guys get in the comments, which nobody gets in the comments, and says like you want me to do like a full spill on it, like, I'll happily do a full spill on it in another episode. This book just really rubbed me the wrong way at the end, and it really just like, yeah, that's it. It just really rubbed me the wrong way at the end. I'm pretty sure I gave this 2 stars because up until the like 3/4 mark of the book, like, I thought the thriller was written really well and I liked where it was going, and then she really flipped the script at the end and freaked me out. Like, that's my biggest thing, is that so many people had their eyes on this and no one threw up a red flag about any of it. And there were no trigger warnings on at the beginning of this book. None at all. Like, went in completely blind about what was going to be happening. So this does have a lot of graphic material in it. I would try and find a trigger list on the internet for this book because it is graphic. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Like I said, I can talk about books that I love just as easily as I can talk about books that I didn't like or hated, because I have a lot of opinions. And it's either like, I really loved the book and I could talk about it forever, or I really disliked it and here's the 100 million reasons why I didn't like it. I mean, yeah, that's just me in a nutshell, I guess. Thanks for stopping by and listening to me talk about books I didn't like. If you read some of these books and you really like them, like, please drop a comment. Like, I'm not going to argue with you, I promise. Like, every book is written for some reader. Like, someone's going to read it and love it. So if you really like some of these books, like, I'm happy they worked for you, but they didn't work for me. I'm really excited about the content that's coming up, and yeah, it's like officially summer and everything. Let's not talk too much about it or I might get freaked out. I will see you guys next time. Bye!